Hi to the Bridge End Fencing Club members and everyone else that's watching this, especially if you're new to fencing. In the introductory video, I said we would be covering the very basic stuff of fencing in the early videos of these, and so as a result we're going to be doing how to come on guard, stepping forwards and backwards, and lunging. Before we go any further, please remember the safety aspects of this. If you need to warm up beforehand, please do so. Make sure you've got enough space to do the exercises in this video, and also make sure that the floor is suitable and non-slip. Please bear in mind, I'm a left-hander, and I realise the majority of you who will be watching this are right-handers, so I'll try and do my best to remember to demonstrate stuff both ways round. So first of all, let's look at on guard. The on guard position is the absolute basic platform for fencing. It must be right, otherwise it's going to throw everything else out. And often it needs a lot more focus than it gets given in fencing clubs and in lessons. So, first of all, to demonstrate how to come on guard, if you are right-handed then, first of all, you need to start off with your feet in an L shape. So I put my right foot facing directly forwards, and then my left foot comes in behind with the heels touching. Okay, so if I turn around and show it from the side, that is the position, that's the starting position, this L shape. Then I take my front foot, which if you're right-handed is your right foot, and I move it forward about 50 centimetres, 18 inches, no more than that. So it's about shoulder width, or maybe a little bit wider. I have my hips then must be round at 45 degrees. This is a very, very common mistake. So turn around so that my foot is pointing forwards. The easy way you can do this and check this is correct is that there is a straight line between my heels. If I take my sabre, you can do this with a broom handle or anything else like that, and place it so it's cutting the line at 90 degrees to the line, and then I turn it through 45 degrees. When I sit down, my hips should fall across the line of that sabre. Okay, the hips at 45 degrees is very, very important, because if you've got it turned around what I call too fine, so you've got your hips a little bit more front and back, it's going to naturally twist your body off. Okay, so if you're a right-handed person, as the position is I'm in now, when I move, when I do lunging, it's going to throw my body off to the left. So hips at 45 degrees, very important. The next thing I need to do is make sure I've got my knees bent, so that when I look down, my knees are covering my toes, so I can't see my toes. I've got the base of my spine tucked in underneath me, the torso of my body is upright, and I'm looking forward. So you need to have this, when you're coming on guard and practicing your on guard position, you need to have this checklist. Are my feet pointing in the correct direction? Are my heels in line? My knees bent, hips at 45 degrees, body upright, looking forwards. Okay? So some common faults then when people come on guard. First of all, very common fault you see is people coming on guard with their feet, with their front foot not pointing out in the correct direction. Easy to solve this when you're standing still, because you just got to move your feet. But often again it's because your hips are not at 45 degrees and it's throwing your position off to the left if you're a right-hander. If you're left-handed, as I've swapped around to now, quite often you see the foot pointing off to the right, and again this is because the hips are not turned to that correct 45 degrees. Also you'll see people that come on guard as if they're trying to sit down on a chair, like this. This is quite a dangerous thing to do, because it's dropping all the weight straight down to the floor and it could cause hip problems. So it's best to keep the base of the spine tucked in underneath your body, and then all the weight's going down your legs. Also you see people with their knees, they're not bent enough and they're standing too tall. This will become apparent as to why this is an issue when you start to move, because If your knees are straight, it makes moving really, really difficult. Okay? So, on to some exercises then. First thing you can do when you're coming on guard, again, running through that mental checklist, feet, heels, knees, hips, body. First thing you do, just come on guard and see how long you can stand on guard for. And gradually build up, see if you can time yourself to stand on guard for longer and longer. Another exercise you can do is you get into your on guard position and then trying to keep the base of the spine tucked in as much as possible. Very, very slowly squat down on your knees, keeping your knees bent, keep the base of the spine tucked in, and you go down until it gets uncomfortable. Brief pause, and then very slowly rise back up into a more natural guard position. And there you can then squat down again, but very, very slowly. And each time you do this exercise, you're aiming to do it between about 3 to 5 times. Another thing you can do is when you are doing something else, say brushing your teeth in the morning or at the end of the day, as you're doing it, just from a normal standing position, just fall on guard. Go through your mental checklist, make sure everything is correct and that you're in a comfortable on guard position. The on guard position, the aim is to try and make it as natural as possible, and that every time you come on guard you snap into the correct on guard position. Okay? So, that's your on guard position. Practice it, get it right, especially focus on the hips. If it helps, you can video yourself, or maybe if you've got a full length mirror, come on guard in front of that mirror and run through that mental checklist again. So, that's the on guard position. The next thing we're going to look at is how to do some stepping, taking steps forward and taking steps backwards. So, to demonstrate, from our on guard position, and this is as a right-handed fencer I'm in now, I'm in my on guard position, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lift the toe of my front foot, so that's the toe of my right foot. I lift it up to this position. I then kick it forward about 6 inches so that my heel is just grazing the floor. And I put my toe down. I then lift the heel of my back foot, my left foot, bring it up into my on guard position and put the foot down. So the sequence is toe, heel, toe, heel, toe, heel. Toe, heel, toe, heel, toe, heel. And what I'm aiming to do is that every time I take a step forward or backwards, I'm aiming to try and keep the same distance between my feet at all times. If I'm taking a step backwards then, it's the same action but in reverse order. So I start lifting the heel of my back foot, push it away and plant with the toe, heel comes down, then rock up onto the heel of my front foot and push off. So again, lift the heel of my back foot, push it away, rock up onto the heel of my front foot and push off and put the foot down. Okay? As a left-hander, if I'm taking a step forward, so the toe of the left foot comes up first, kicks forward, comes down, heel of the back foot comes up, and I plant on the toe. Take a step backwards, exactly the same, lift the heel up, push it away, rock onto the heel of the front foot, bring it up. So some common faults then when people are taking a step forward. One of the things they do is they pick their front foot up far too high to take the step. Okay? That makes it a very slow action and it's a very obvious action. Your opponent is going to see that you're stepping forward. So one thing you can do is you can get a coin, for instance, something fairly large like a 2p piece, and if you've got a smooth floor, you put the coin just under the toe of your foot, and when you take a step forward, you try and flick that coin out in a straight line. Okay? That also tells you, again, if your hips are in the correct alignment, because that coin should travel directly forwards. And that shows you that you've got the momentum directly behind the coin. If you don't have a suitable floor to do that on, again, it's just a question of looking down and making sure that your heel is just moving and just above the floor. Another common problem is that when people step forward, is that they twist the front foot when they plant it. This again is a problem, and it's due to the hips not being in alignment. What's going to happen is, the reason why this is an issue is that A, you'll start to drift off in one direction, and also you're putting a lot of odd forces through your hip and your knee that are not meant to be there. So make sure that your hips are at that 45-degree angle, that when you plant the front foot, it's nice and straight at all times. Again, this is all about being self-critical and making sure you're doing things with the correct form. Another common problem is that people tend to bob up and down when they're moving. So if they're moving along, their shoulders will rise up. This is because, again, they're not sitting down and keeping these knees bent. A similar problem is the feet chasing each other, so that if they're stepping forward, the back foot chases up the front foot, and as they're moving backwards, the front foot chases the back foot. This can cause issues when you start to fence properly and move at speed, that as you change direction, your feet will be closer together, and it may make you unbalanced if you have to change direction suddenly and you're in danger of tripping over your own feet. Again, this could be solved by making sure you're sitting down, bending those knees, and keep that low sense of gravity. Also, you sometimes see people with very stiff, stilted footwork, so as they move, it's quite jerky. Again, that's about sitting down and also relaxing. So, some exercises we can do stepping then. The first thing we can do is we can just try stepping forwards and backwards along a straight line. So we come on guard, make sure our guard position is correct, and just very slowly stepping forwards and stepping backwards, making sure that we're doing it correctly. As we get more used to the stepping, we can start to increase the speed. We're always looking to try and maintain the correct and proper form when we're moving. Again, it's useful to either try and video yourself doing this or do it in front of a mirror. If you're finding you've got some difficulties doing this and getting it correct, try breaking it down into sections, or what in fencing coaching terms we call part whole. So first of all, start off just lifting the toe of the front foot, pausing, kicking forward off the heel, pause, lift the heel of the back foot up and bring it up. And the same for stepping back, lifting the heel of the back foot up, pushing it away and stepping back. Another thing you can do is stepping on the spot. So, as a left-handed fencer, I'm just going to start on the spot, in effect like treading water, like a swimmer treading water, but I'm just staying more or less still. And also from here, what you can do is start to rise up on your toes a little bit, so you're on the balls of your feet now, stepping. And then you can go back to stepping normally and raise up onto the balls of your feet. Again, once you're used to doing this, you can start to increase the speed of what you're doing a little bit. So you might start off slow. When you go up onto the balls of your feet, you pick up the space for a little bit. and then go back to slow. Might speed up, stepping on the spot, and up onto the balls of your toes again. If you watch top level international saburas, they very, very rarely stand still. Even when they are not moving backwards and forwards on the piece, they are still moving their feet. So this is a good technique to pick up early on and practice on a regular basis. The whole idea of sabre is that it is a flowing, fast moving game. And writers even back in the 1950s and before the 1950s, writing about how to fence in terms of Olympic fencing, picked up on this. So this is not a new thing as part of the modern game. So practice your footwork as often as possible. And in future videos, we'll look at different drills you can do and different things you can do with your footwork. Okay, so the last section of this video then, lunging. The lunge is, I think of the lunge as a bit like a very long step, but you're leaving your back foot where it is. And it is also the basis of all of your attacks in fencing, no matter what weapon you're using. So in order to execute the lunge as in a left-hander's position, you would start off with lifting the toe of the front foot, as you would do as you begin to take a step. And instead of just stepping forwards, you kick out with the bottom part of the front leg and straighten your back leg. And land in a balanced position, hopefully. Try that one again. Okay. Now, certainly in foil and sabre, making sure that you've got this, a really important thing is making sure you've got the arm extended. This is important because it helps to establish what's called priority, which is the part of the rules that dictate what a valid hit is. If you don't get this right, you're not going to score points. Simple as that. So you establish priority by starting off with extending the arm out. So if we can just move the camera so that a little bit higher, so you can see that's it. Okay, that's enough. Okay, straighten it up a little bit, please. Brilliant. Okay, so now you can just about see my arm in the top of the shot. When you're doing a lunge, the first thing you do in order to establish priority is get this arm extending out straight. Okay. That tells the referee I'm looking to establish priority, and then the foot should follow the hand. If it doesn't, what happens then is that if the front foot lands first, that is the end of priority. Okay? So priority is maintained until either you hit your opponent, in which case you score a point. It continues until your opponent either blocks it or causes you to miss them, or if the front foot lands first. The minute the front foot lands, that is the end of priority. So if I start extending my arm out, but don't extend it fully, my front foot lands and then my arm extends, that is an invalid lunge. That would be an invalid attack. So I want to get this feeling of my hand extending and almost pulling my foot along behind it. What I've got here is a piece of string. And this is a good way of practicing this. If I tie the string round the front of tie the string onto my laces on my front foot, and then just say wrap it round the bottom of my hand, and when I come on guard, the string is loose. Okay, so now the only way I can move my foot is by making this string go tight, and I can only do that with pushing my hand forward. So if I push my hand forward, you see the string comes tight. Yeah. So the first thing I'm going to do is push my hand forward and coordinate it with lifting the toe of my front foot. So I'm just going to do a half extension with where my sword arm would be. See, the string is now tight. Now I pull on the string with my hand, and that pushes me out into the lunge. Also notice when I'm lunging that my back leg, the knee in my back leg is straight, and then also I've lifted my back hand up. Okay, so again, in a nice relaxed guard position, extend my hand forward, lift my toe, pull everything back, pull everything forward, and I lift my back arm. The back arm lift there is useful because first of all it balances me, and also it actually does push my shoulders ever so slightly forward and gives me a little bit of extra reach on my lunge. So once again, nice and relaxed guard position, string nice and loose, extend my hand out, lift the toe, pull everything forward, and my back knee is straightened and my back arm lifts. To recover from this position, the first thing I do is bend my back knee, and at the same time I rock up onto the heel of my front foot and use that to push off back into my same guard position. So again, extend the arm, lift the toe, pull and bend back knee to recover and push off the front heel. Back into my normal on guard position. I'll just get rid of the string down there, tuck it away quickly. If you become a right-handed fencer now very quickly, exactly the same process. So I start off by starting to extend my right hand and lifting the toe of my right foot into my lunge position. My back knee is straight, my hand slightly raised up, and then to recover, bend my left knee and push off my front heel. Common faults then that you see with people lunging. The first thing they do, especially in foil and sabre, is they don't get that hand moving first. And again, you can solve that with the piece, perhaps practicing with the piece of string. And also, again, lunging often side on to a mirror so you can see the whole of your lunge. Another common thing that people do is that they overextend on the lunge. So this would be an incorrect lunge position where my front foot is in front of my knee. In a correct lunge position, my knee is just over my front foot and the upper part of my leg is almost parallel to the floor. Okay. Another common fault is that people don't straighten this back knee, so that when they lunge, they have the back knee bent. This then means that you lose an awful lot of power and it actually makes it harder to recover. A couple of other things they do is they might tip forward with the upper part of their body, and again that's linked to the over lunging. So as they lunge, they tip forward, and also then that forces all their momentum down into the floor. You want to try and get as much of your momentum as possible going forward. Okay? Another thing people often do is they roll their back foot and back ankle over. And again, this is linked into over lunging. So as they lunge, the hand extends out, toe comes up into the lunge position. You see now my back foot and my back ankle has collapsed over. This can again cause huge amounts of problems with the joints in the ankle, the knee and the hip. And also it makes it an awful lot harder for you to recover from this position. Because in order to recover from here, you've got to get your foot back on the floor before you can push back up. It's impossible to recover without rolling your foot, almost impossible to recover without rolling your foot back first. So that's going to make it slower. And also, sometimes, again, linked to over lunging, you see people, they drag the back foot up. So again, I do my lunge with my hand extending, toe comes up, but my back foot travels. Sometimes that's not too much of a problem because the fencer thinks, oh, I'm gaining distance. But actually that then messes up their perception of distance and also means that they might recover. When they recover, if their back foot travels, they might recover back with their feet far too close together. rather than in a correct on guard position. Okay, so some actions then, some exercises. First thing you can do is you can come on guard. Again, run through your mental checklist for your on guard position, feet in the correct alignment, heels in line, sufficiently wide apart, knees bent, hips at 45 degrees, base of spine tucked in, body upright. And all you can do is just practice lunging on the spot. And you want to make sure that every time you land in a nice stable, correct lunge position. So again, very quick check, make sure that front foot is nice and straight, make sure the back knee is straight, arm in the correct position, and your arms are in the correct position, and then recover. So you can just lunge on the spot, and that will help you to make sure that you're maintaining your balance. If you're struggling and you're finding you're either over lunging or you're not balancing, what you can do is come on guard and using a lift of the front foot, very slowly creep out into into a comfortable on guard position, into a comfortable lunge position. Then you can recover back and practice this again. So from your on guard position, you're just creeping forward with that front foot until it feels like the knee becomes extended, and you drop into the correct on guard, correct lunge position. Okay. So again, show it as a right-handed fencer. I'm in my correct on guard position. And again, when you're practicing lunging on the spot, practice getting this hand going first. Don't just move the feet. Think about what the hand is doing as well. And recover. Hand goes out first, lunge, and recover. Be self-critical with yourself all the time. That last lunge was maybe a little bit overextended. My knee wasn't quite as bent as I would have liked. So the next time I'm going to make sure I'm going to try and get that knee in the correct position. Hand goes first, and that's a better lunge. Once you've got used to lunging on the spot and you're in a comfortable lunging position, you could add some steps. So you could do a step forward and lunge, recover, step back, maybe 2 steps forward, 1, 2, lunge, recover, 1, 2, back. I'm just doing a couple of steps because if I did many more, I know I'd be off screen. If you've got some more space, you could do a few more steps. Maybe you could build them into a pyramid. So you could start off with a step forward and a lunge, recover, step back, lunge. 2 steps forward, lunge, recover, 2 steps back, lunge. And then you could add more levels onto that. What the pyramid is also useful is assessing how big your steps are. Ideally, you should maybe end up slightly back of your starting position, because if you take slightly smaller steps forward, that gives you a bit more control. Slightly bigger steps going back sometimes is useful because it helps you to get away from your opponent if necessary. So have a play around with those, but there's no need to do them too fast or do anything particularly fancy at the moment. We'll come on and cover that in later videos. So just to wrap up then, we've covered some very, very basic actions. We've covered our basic on guard position. We've covered our stepping forwards, stepping back, and also our lunging. In the next video then, what I'm going to do is look at some more footwork, some more steps, some more lunging in a bit more detail, and maybe look at what you can change, what you can alter to improve your footwork and make it a little bit more like realistic fencing. Because at the moment we're just moving very, very slowly here, focusing on getting the very basics right and doing it with proper form. So until next time, keep well, keep safe, and keep fencing. Thank you very much.